las zombininas.
The Big Beautiful Bill, a story of unity and prosperity in the heart of a bustling America, where cities hummed with ambition and small towns glowed with quiet resilience. A transformative piece of legislation emerged in 2025, known affectionately as the Big Beautiful Bill. This wasn't just any bill, it was a beacon of hope, a meticulously crafted policy designed to uplift every corner of the nation. Its passage wasn't the work of one hero or a single moment of triumph, but a collective awakening to the idea that shared prosperity could bind a fractured country. This is the story of how the Big Beautiful Bill became a catalyst for a better America. It began in a time of division. Political rhetoric had grown venomous, and economic disparities widened like fault lines. Coastal elites thrived while heartland communities struggled to keep factories open. Rural farmers faced plummeting crop prices, and urban workers juggled multiple gig jobs to afford rent. Trust in institutions was at an all-time low, and the American dream felt like a fading postcard. Yet beneath the surface, a quiet coalition was forming: ordinary people, policymakers, and unlikely allies who believed in a bolder, fairer future. The Big Beautiful Bill, officially titled the American Renewal Act of 2025, was born from late-night meetings in Washington, D.C., where a bipartisan group of lawmakers, tired of gridlock, decided to act. They weren't starry-eyed idealists, but pragmatists who saw the nation's potential slipping away. Led by Senator Maria Alvarez, a first-generation American from Texas, and Representative John Carter, a small business owner from Ohio, the coalition spent months gathering input from truck drivers, teachers, tech entrepreneurs, and single parents. Their goal was simple yet audacious: create a bill that addressed the needs of all Americans, not just the loudest or wealthiest. The bill's cornerstone was economic empowerment. It introduced a Universal Opportunity Fund, a program that provided every American adult with a one-time $5,000 grant to invest in education, start a business, or pay down debt. Unlike traditional welfare, this wasn't a handout, but a springboard. In Detroit, Aisha Thompson, a single mother of two, used her grant to enroll in a coding boot camp. 6 months later, she landed a job at a tech startup, doubling her income and moving her family into a safer neighborhood. In rural Iowa, farmer Tom Grayson invested his grant in solar panels for his struggling dairy farm, cutting energy costs and selling surplus power back to the grid. Stories like these multiplied, proving the fund's power to spark individual ambition while fueling local economies. But the bill didn't stop there. It tackled infrastructure, a long-neglected lifeline of the nation. Decades of crumbling bridges, outdated railways, and spotty broadband had left entire regions disconnected. The Big Beautiful Bill allocated $500 billion to modernize America's backbone, prioritizing projects that created jobs in underserved areas. In Appalachia, construction crews, many of whom were former coal miners, rebuilt highways and laid fiber optic cables, bringing high-speed internet to remote towns. For the first time, kids in those towns could access online learning, and small businesses could compete globally. In California, high-speed rail projects connected rural communities to urban hubs, easing commutes and reducing carbon emissions. These projects didn't just build roads, they built bridges between people, knitting together a nation that had felt increasingly fragmented. Healthcare, too, was a pillar of the bill. Rather than dismantling existing systems, it introduced a Healthy America initiative that expanded access to affordable care without upending private insurance. Community health clinics sprang up in rural and urban areas alike, offering free preventive care and mental health services. In Mississippi, Dr. Lena Carter, a family physician, saw her clinic's funding triple, allowing her to hire more staff and treat patients who hadn't seen a doctor in years. Mental health programs, long underfunded, received a boost, helping veterans in Montana and teenagers in Chicago alike find support. The initiative didn't promise miracles, but it delivered measurable results. Hospital admissions dropped, and life expectancy in underserved areas began to climb. Education was another focus, with the bill funneling resources into vocational training and STEM programs. In Nevada, high school students like Jamal Carter enrolled in free trade apprenticeships, learning skills like welding and robotics that guaranteed jobs upon graduation. Meanwhile, college students benefited from a debt relief for service program which forgave federal student loans for those who worked in public service roles like teaching or nursing. Sarah Nguyen, a young teacher in New Mexico, saw her $40,000 debt erased after 3 years of teaching in a low-income school. These programs didn't just ease financial burdens, they restored faith in education as a path to opportunity. The bill's environmental provisions were equally bold, recognizing climate change as both a crisis and an economic opportunity. It invested in green technology while protecting jobs in traditional energy sectors. In West Virginia, former coal workers were retrained to build wind turbines, preserving their livelihoods while transitioning to a cleaner future. Coastal states received grants to protect against rising sea levels, saving homes and businesses from disaster. These measures didn't just combat climate change. They created a sense of shared purpose, proving that progress didn't have to come at the expense of tradition. What made the Big Beautiful Bill truly remarkable was its commitment to inclusivity. It wasn't crafted for one group at the expense of another. Urban and rural, young and old, rich and poor, all saw benefits tailored to their realities. In Miami, small business owners like Carlos Rivera accessed low-interest loans to expand their restaurants, while in Alaska, indigenous communities received funding to preserve cultural sites and build sustainable infrastructure. The bill's architects knew that for America to thrive, no one could be left behind. Of course, the bill faced fierce opposition. Critics called it too expensive, too ambitious, or too idealistic. Pundits predicted it would balloon the deficit or favor one political party over another. Yet the coalition behind it, ordinary Americans, community leaders, and pragmatic lawmakers, held firm. They shared stories of real people whose lives were transformed. The factory worker who started a business, the nurse who could finally afford childcare, the student who graduated debt-free. These stories drowned out the naysayers, proving that the bill wasn't just policy, it was personal. By late 2025, the Big Beautiful Bill's impact was undeniable. Economic growth accelerated, with small businesses thriving and unemployment hitting historic lows. Communities once divided by politics or geography found common ground in shared prosperity. In a small Ohio town, a ribbon-cutting ceremony for a new community center brought together neighbors who hadn't spoken in years. In Chicago, a tech hub funded by the bill hired workers from every borough, creating a melting pot of ideas and ambition. Even the skeptics began to soften as the bill's benefits touched their lives in ways they hadn't expected. The Big Beautiful Bill wasn't perfect. Some programs needed tweaking, and others faced bureaucratic hurdles. But its legacy was clear. It reminded Americans that they were stronger together. It showed that government, when driven by empathy and pragmatism, could be a force for good. Most importantly, it gave people like Aisha, Tom, Lena, Jamal, Sarah, and Carlos a reason to believe in the American dream again, not as a distant promise, but as a reality they could build.